Welcome to Good Goodbyes, the funeral facts podcast. We are really glad you found us. In this podcast, me, Simon, a funeral director,
and me, Tina, I'm an independent celebrant.
We're going to discuss all things funeral in an informal space to demystify what happens when we say goodbye.
Based on your questions and queries, Si and myself are two industry professionals that are going to chat through the hows, whats and wherefores. We actively work in the funeral industry in Devon in the UK. So, we hope you enjoy the episode ahead. Welcome to Good Goodbyes. Hello, welcome to Good Goodbyes. This is Tina.
And this is Si. Thank you for joining us today. Do I say the word trigger warning? Probably not trigger warning, but it's quite deceased heavy, as you may expect from a funeral podcast, but this one specifically, because we're going to talk about donating your body for anatomical examination. So that's donating your body to a university or a medical school for them to use in studies and to break down and investigate and teach and learn with, which is it's quite a decision to make. It's quite a brave decision for someone to make. It's an incredible thing to do because it's without these bequests, a lot of training wouldn't happen. But it's a little bit heavy as a subject.
Well, just to give another perspective, I think you're right about this subject. You know, when it comes up at a dinner party, I'm sure everybody puts their knife and fork down. But it's as a nurse, there's two ways that I really learned about the body. Because you see lots of pictures of the body and you see that the nervous system is here and the organs are there and all this sort of jazz on a picture. And of course, when I trained back in the day, you know, everything was in a book. You didn't get any 3D modelling. So I went to see an operation and I stood in the background. And when they were inside the human fixing them, the surgeon was really helpful and said to me, "Oh, that's where the heart is, Tina, and the lungs are sitting here." And, you know, and it really clicked in my mind. I thought, oh, yeah, I get that now. I get how it all fits together. So actually, it really helped me learn my anatomy. But on another occasion, we were allowed to go and see someone who donated themselves, their body, be examined so that we could kind of explore with the doctors who were learning, you know, where the nerve pathways went. And that was fascinating. And also, I have to say for our listeners, so respectful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Before we even started, they said, you know, we just like to take a moment to thank this person for donating themselves, because now we have the privilege of being able to learn medical science in action.
It's an amazing thing, and you're absolutely right, because it's a big thing to be able to do from a teaching point of view, because you can learn so much and get far more in depth in person than you ever could from a textbook. But it's, how do I describe it? I think it's difficult. It's more difficult for the family than it is necessarily for the person making the bequest. So we've had it recently where a family wanted, or a lady wanted her body to be donated to medical science, and the family weren't overly thrilled about that. They were happy for organ donation, things like that, and organ donation is another fantastic thing that I'm really glad that we're getting to the point that it's now opt out rather than opt in, because so much good can be done from organ donation. It's incredible. But yeah, the family didn't want their body to be taken away, because, I mean, under the Human Tissue Act, there is no limit on the time that body can be kept in these places. They will eventually cremate the remains and return those ashes, but that can be years and years and years time. That's not necessarily going to be next week.
And I think you've said something really important, Si. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh yeah, I'd be up for that, I don't know, in my body once I've gone. If you were thinking that, the most important first step is probably to discuss your wishes with your family and friends so that it doesn't come as a surprise to them. And you can be really clear while you're living why that would be important to you. Because I think if that doesn't happen, when the family or friends are presented with that information at the point of your death, it can feel quite shocking to them, and something else they've got to wrap their head around, as well as the fact that, you know, they're mourning you and they're dealing with your loss. So have an upfront conversation for sure is the first thing I would say. And I guess, you know, it so depends on your belief system about what happens beyond this life, what happens to our physical selves, the rest of us, spirit, soul, all of that. You know, it's quite a part of that. And you might have a certain belief, but everyone you know will have a different take on that.
Yeah, and obviously there are religious sort of considerations to make, and there are religions where this absolutely isn't even a conversation to have. It's a straight no. It wouldn't be allowed. It wouldn't be seen as acceptable at any level. And I think obviously people from those faiths will know that. But like you said, you have to make that consideration that there may be people around you that will be uncomfortable with it. I mean, all bequests from a technical point of view have to be made by the person while they're living anyway. So this is not a decision a family can make. It is a decision that you have to make yourself. So there's a bit of a positive in that you can't not know this is going to happen. But yeah, it has to be the individual that consents. Nobody under 18 can donate their body. It's quite strictly governed. It really is.
And I think, as you quite rightly said, if you look this up online, you know, it will advise you that you need to let your family know your wishes, contact a medical school near you and say, you know, that I'm indicating this is what I would wish for myself. But also have a think about your funeral wishes, because, you know, that funeral, that goodbye is going to happen in your absence, because as Si has quite rightly said, it might be years before your funeral is arranged by the medical school.
Yeah, that is more often the case. There are different consents. I think the lowest you can give is 3 years, and then the next is basically as and when. There is no end sort of date on that. So a lot of these kind of medical schools will say we expect sort of 3 years as a minimum. And yeah, it can be difficult to get your head around that. It really can. Another thing to say that's quite important is there is no guarantee. You can make this choice and make this decision and tell your family this is what you like, but when it comes down to it, the medical school might turn you down for any number of reasons, be it holidays, just the amount that they may have in at that one time. If you have transmissible diseases, dementia is a big one. So any type of dementia, it's an immediate no. It's just straight across the board. So if you're making this decision now and saying, well, that's what I want to happen, and then you contract dementia or Parkinson's or something further down the line, it undoes that bequest in its entirety, because it's then just a straight no.
Yeah. I mean, I'll put a link in the show notes from the Human Tissue Authority, because there's some quite useful information on that website. And, you know, they are very clear about what you've just said, Si. And they're also clear that NHS organ donation is different from bequeathing your body for science afterwards. It's a completely different thing. And they have something called a bequeathal information pack. So, definitely, you know, more to know about this, I think.
Yeah, it's quite a complex subject. The rules around it are pretty tight, so it's definitely worth having a look at, because it's little things like I think organ wise you can donate your corneas, I think brain, but they won't accept your body if you've had any other organ donation. So if a kidney's been taken or something like that, you're then not accepted for your body to be donated.
They want your whole body, all of you. They want.
Absolutely. So yeah,
it's an all or nothing scenario.
If it's something that you're thinking, actually, this is what I feel I'd like to happen, really read up on it. But arm your family with the information that this isn't guaranteed. It could still very well be a no. And best laid plans could be that they phone up the bequeathal office and they say, no, really sorry, can't take them, ring a funeral director. And all of a sudden, that's a very, very different environment. It's right, we've got to organise a funeral, but we haven't had a conversation about, because it was always set in stone that mum, dad, granddad, whatever, was going to medical science. Well, have both conversations, probably wise, let's be honest.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I wonder how many people do it these days.
Well, I think it's still fairly common. I think how many times have I been faced with it in the last few years? I mean, we're in double figures, definitely. But I'd say probably 33% of those haven't successfully been taken. So yeah, there is no guarantee. I keep harking on about that, but I think it's important to know.
Yeah, no, that's true. I was just having a quick look as you were chatting. It says the Royal College of Surgeons says about 1,300 people donate their bodies per year for medical education.
Yep.
And the London Anatomy Office accepts about 350 donations annually. And the London Anatomy Office is a place where medical folks can go if they particularly want to understand something about a particular organ or part of the body. So There you go, guys.
But a fascinating subject, a huge amount of research to do if you think it's for you, and have both conversations about the bequest and about the funeral, because ultimately you don't know which way it's going to
go. Good advice. Thanks for listening in, everyone.
Try to end on good advice. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Good Goobyes, the Funeral Facts podcast. Please do like, subscribe, comment and share. Drop any questions on our social media, on Instagram, or in the text option in the show notes.
Si and I are qualified professionals, but we always advise our clients to seek any additional support from medical practitioners if they need to. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay well and be kind to one another.